Hello everyone and welcome back to Meeple Leaf Reviews. I'm Jeffrey and today I'm doing a full review of Lorenzo il Magnifico. Now myself and Jacob, we've done before and after for this, so if you haven't checked that out, go to our YouTube channel and give it a watch. Now going right into the review with the art and components. The art style is very indicative of Clemens Franz, which I enjoy, and wooden tokens are wooden tokens. Not much more to say about those. The card quality is good, especially for the small cards. The leader cards aren't as great, but you won't be shuffling them or manipulating them too often, so it's not that big a deal. For the theme, you're a head of a noble family during the Renaissance in Florence. Now, when I'm playing the game, do I feel that? Not really. I mean, there's a few things that are inspired by the theme. You are going out and claiming different territories, and you need to have a certain military strength in order to do so, and you're going to be sending out your different family members to take different actions in the city, and you can use servants to increase the value of those actions, so they're helping them out. So it makes sense thematically, but when I'm playing it, it's just a purely mechanical game. Nothing is really bringing out the theme for me. Rules and teaching wise, the rulebook had a few grammatical and spelling errors, but even still I was able to learn the game pretty easily from the rulebook, and teaching it is pretty simple as well. You're simply placing your family member pawn out onto the board and taking the associated action. The graphic design is very good, so it's really easy to tell what's happening. Now on to the meat and potatoes of this review, and that's the gameplay and mechanisms. One thing that this game does that I think is really interesting and is a neat twist on using dice for worker placement, rather than everyone having their own set of dice that they would roll and take actions with, there's a communal set of dice. So they get rolled at the beginning of a round, and everyone has action pawns that have colors associated with those dice. So everyone has to deal with the same dice rolls. Nobody's going to get messed up by rolling really low, whereas someone else rolls really high. I think that's really neat and interesting in this game. The other thing that I think is a main component for this game is it's a very cutthroat worker placement game. And the cutthroat nature is twofold. Not only do you have to worry about people taking the action that you want, more specifically taking the card that you want to put in your tableau, you need to worry about people taking actions in the same column that you want to take an action in. So there's 4 different columns for each of the different colored cards. If someone has gone there before you and you want to go and even take another card from that column, you're going to have to pay 3 coins. And those resources are pretty tight, the game, and so 3 coins can be a big deal, which means that you might have to take another action first to get the money before you can go take the action that you wanted to first, and then you're falling even further behind because people might then take another action that you were hoping to do second. So you can really feel the tension in wanting to go first to get the actions that you want, and people are just going to be taking actions in locations that you want to do all over the place. It's a very small board. There's not a whole lot of actions or different action spaces where you can go. The third thing that I think is a big part of this game, and that's the faith track. Now, this game shares 2 designers with Grand Austria Hotel, and it's very reminiscent of the Emperor track from that game. Whereas in this game, I don't think it did it as well as what Grand Austria did, and here's why. In this game, you're only trying to avoid a negative thing that's going to happen. You're going to get excommunicated from the church if you don't have a certain amount of faith. Whereas in Grand Austria Hotel, if you're able to get high enough up on the Emperor track, you're going to be getting a bonus. So you have an incentive to get higher on the Emperor track. Whereas in this game, you're just doing something to prevent a negative. And it's really hard to move up that faith track. You have to devote a lot of your actions and a lot of your resources to doing that. So a lot of the time during the game, I just felt like I was taking actions because I needed the faith so that I wouldn't get a minus. Whereas in Grand Austria Hotel, I didn't feel like it was that hard to move up the Emperor track, and I was incentivized for doing so. The other thing in this game, it comes with 2 different modes. You can play a basic mode or an advanced variant with leader cards. all 3 times that I've played this game, I've played with the leaders. However, I feel that the requirements for the leaders are pretty steep in some instances, to the point where you're not going to be getting them out early in the game. It's going to be later in the game, and you're not going to get a whole lot of use out of them. They are good. They give you some direction of things to work for, but overall, I felt the impact of them pretty minimal, and most of the times with conflicting leaders, I would just discard another leader to get a favor to help myself move up on the faith track that I mentioned before, which wasn't all that exciting for me to do anyways. Now, the very last thing that I wanted to touch on for this game, and it's engine building. There's 2 separate engines that you could potentially build in this game. You have a production row where you're going to be getting different buildings, and you'll be in action space where you can go and activate those, and then there'll be territories that you can get, and you can activate them with a harvest action. Now, there's only 6 rounds of the game, and there are some cards that you can buy which could give you the different harvest or production actions, but typically throughout a game, you're going to be activating your production rows maybe 4 to 6 times, which, especially in the early parts of the game, they have pretty minimal impact. And I didn't really feel that excited about doing the engine building anyways, especially the territories. I'm mostly just gathering resources. The buildings have a little bit more excitement and variety with them, where you can turn money into points, or turn money into resources, or resources into points. There's all these different things that you can do. However, the one fallback for that is that you can't use any of the resources or money that you get during that production to fuel any of the later cards in the production. So you need to have everything already in front of you before you go ahead and do that action. And I found sometimes I wanted to run it, but I didn't have enough resources, so I would spend actions to go and get the resources that I need. And in a game where you only get 24 actions, having to do that felt like I was just, trying to fill up my engine's tank before I could get it running without just, turning over the key and my engine running smoothly. So the engine building was quite poor, I felt, in this game for me. So then, on to my final rating for this game. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It does a couple things that I thought were interesting, especially the communal dice worker placement aspect. The cutthroat nature after my before and after I thought was quite interesting and quite exciting. However, it gets old after even a couple more plays. By the end of it, I was just sick of people always getting in my way and forcing me to have to take more actions before I could do the action that I wanted to do. That, coupled with the clunky nature of the engine building, it just didn't really resonate with me. So that's my review of Lorenzo Il Magnifico. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video. We always appreciate it when you do, and we'll see you guys next time.